and welcome to my Spiritual Healer radio show. Tonight's guest is Steve Gooch, coming in from London. He's the author of Reiki Jin Kei Do, The Way of Compassion and Wisdom. It's 3 o'clock in the morning over there?
It is. Hi, Kris.
Hello. Nice to finally speak with you.
Yeah.
It's been email center, so am I pronouncing the last name right, Gooch?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. And am I pronouncing Jin Kei Do?
Jin Kei Do, yeah.
Yay! Yay for me! So tonight, we are taking some call-in questions for the author, and you're able to do some short readings. Is that true? Or
Who, me?
Yeah.
I don't do readings particularly.
Okay.
I wouldn't claim to be particularly psychic.
Okay. All right. So we are taking questions, though, on the topic and on anything that you have for Steve to answer in relation to Reiki. The toll-free number in the U.S. is 888-235-7374. Canada, 800-920-3717. Local and worldwide, 623-772-9379. So, Steve, how did you learn about and get interested in Reiki? And can you explain what Reiki is for our listeners?
I guess Reiki can be viewed in two different ways. It can be seen as a complementary healing therapy, a hands-on healing system. I tend to view it more as a personal spiritual development tool with an emphasis on meditation. The fact that it can be used as a healing therapy also is for me something of a byproduct of the system. It's great to be able to go out and heal other people with Reiki or help them on their healing journey with Reiki. But I think if we're really going to start making substantial changes in the world on a healing level, I think the place to start is with oneself. Mm-hmm. So that's my view on the Reiki system. I mean, I got into it a good 10, 12 years ago now, looking for a new career direction. And I actually was considering at the time a path into complementary medicine, complementary therapies. And I came across this thing called Reiki that I'd never heard of before. Just read an article in a magazine, and it just grabbed my attention. And I decided, well, this is a good place to start. Let's go and find out what this Reiki thing's all about. So I went off and did some training in Reiki, and very quickly I started to readjust my focus on the system and started to take on board the idea that, well, maybe there's a bigger picture here. Maybe this isn't just a complementary therapy. Maybe there's something much more substantial in this for me. And that's where I guess I started quite a substantial journey of exploration into myself, really, in using Reiki as a set of tools to uncover what was within me, really.
Do you consider yourself healed now, or do you see it as a continuing journey?
Oh, it's a continuing journey. I don't expect to get to the point where I could say I'm a perfect human being. It'd be great if I could, but I'm certainly not there. I'm certainly not there yet. But I think anybody that works with Reiki, it's an ongoing process, really. Not just Reiki, any spiritual development system or tool. It's an ongoing process. It's something that you keep learning from as time goes by.
What is the difference between the Reiki Jin Kei Do that you wrote about and other forms of Reiki?
This sort of taps into what I was just saying a moment ago, in that I guess more than 99% of all the Reiki in the world is seen as a hands-on healing therapy. This is the limit of the system. For most people who practice Reiki, and that's fine. That's Reiki being used in that way is a wonderful thing. But I think within Reiki Jin Kei Do, we do have quite an emphasis on personal spiritual development, on working on ourselves, perfecting ourselves as human beings. Because after all, the more that we work on ourselves, the more perfect we become, the better person that we become, the more we have to offer others. And in that sense, we can then go out and use Reiki as a healing therapy in a much more proactive and proactive way that will generate better results than if that was our starting point. It's just a different focus, really. I think it's about getting to grips with ourselves first. That's the emphasis within Jin Kei Do.
Okay. I want to just make sure that I'm understanding, because sometimes I get a little off kilter. So when I think of Reiki, I think of energy movement in my aura, and I kind of say it like putting pieces back where they should be or where they're best to be. So in Reiki Jin Kei Do, is that the same thing but for oneself?
Yeah, I mean, it's when we work with Reiki as a healing therapy, I mean, we're affecting not only the physical body but the energy body as well, the field of energy that surrounds the physical body. And certainly when we work on ourselves, we're also doing that. But within Reiki Jin Kei Do, although I say it's a system for working on principally yourself, what I'm not principally referring to is just self-treatment. That is a part of all Reiki traditions, or there should be a part of all Reiki traditions. But within Jin Kei Do, there is this emphasis on not only working on yourself in terms of hands-on healing energy, working on the physical body in the energy field, but there is also an emphasis on meditation. It's a very meditation-focused system, and to me, this is the other strand within a twin strand system. We have this hands-on healing therapy aspect, either working on yourself or on other people, and there is the meditation aspect where we start to uncover the deeper processes and the deeper the way we operate in the world. We start to find out what actually our motivations are. Where do these emotions come from? What triggers them? Mm-hmm. Why do we think the way we do? Who are we? This is the sort of stuff that we're trying to uncover with the Jin Kei Do system. It's not, and obviously this is all an energy-based system. Meditation is another form of energy work, and we're using that energetic quality of the Reiki system to help uncover the deeper recesses of our own being, really.
So how long have you been practicing and learning and then teaching?
I took my first Reiki class in early '96, and I was working as a hands-on therapist with Reiki from late '96 onwards, and still continue to do so to this day. But I started teaching Reiki in '98, so it's getting on for 10 years that I've been teaching Reiki now.
And the process for learning it, is it like here in the States, they have what I'm starting to personally term cookie cutter spiritual classes, like institutions where, you take the class, you get a certificate, and suddenly, you're a professional, which I'm starting to lean against strongly.
Yeah.
But is there like a test, a self-test, an evaluation? Do you have a specific person who teaches you, a master that teaches you, or?
Yeah, I mean, in common with all of the traditional forms of Reiki Jin Kei Do is passed on from master to student. I don't like this term master. It's not a phrase that I use, and many others in the tradition also shun the phrase, because I'm a master of nothing, and certainly not Reiki. And I mean, personally, I'd like to see this term master jettisoned for good. Actually, I teach Reiki to the best of my ability to other students, and they start off in my classes. They do a two-day class at the first level, where I give them all of the information that I can give them for that level, and then they're expected to go away and work on themselves for a period of, let's say, 3 months. It can be longer, maybe a little shorter for some people. They work on themselves. They do their meditations. They do the hands-on self-healing work, and then provide me with plenty of feedback before they actually get a certificate at that level. The second level follows the same format, and the teacher's level, the master's level, is can be anywhere from a year to 2 years onwards. I mean, personally, I took 2 years to complete my third level training in Reiki. I did have a student who took 6 or 7 years to complete hers. So it can be quite a long, protracted affair. I mean, it's not, I don't make Reiki masters in a weekend. I think that's just an absolute nonsense, and I don't think anybody else in this tradition would do that either. It's, we want integrity and commitment, and people who are actually prepared to put in the hard work and the sweat of get into the final stage where they can say, well, actually, I'm pretty familiar with this system now, and I think I'm ready to pass it on to others. And that can't be reached in a weekend.
Right. So in your book, you have mapped out you as the student and then your teachers and their teachers. So it's like this, it shows basically from inception, right, of your form. So why is that important? And should people be asking to see that or know that when they go to a treatment or to a teacher?
I don't think that it's necessarily important in terms of treatment. If you're going for a Reiki treatment, all you want is some relief from the suffering that you're going through at that point in time. And if somebody can practice Reiki and that's the therapy that you're seeking, as long as they can practice it, I don't really think it matters in the slightest if they can and show their lineage. But in terms of training, I think the reason that it's important is that it does show a pedigree. It shows that what you hold and what you can transmit to that student has integrity and can be traced back to the founder of the system, Mikao Usui, at the turn of the 20th century in Japan. So I think for that reason it's important, and it is a point of honor within traditional forms of Reiki that teachers and students can show their lineage back to Mikao Usui.
So, one question I have for you regarding your book mentions the Buddho meditation, and what is that, and how does it relate to the Reiki practice?
Okay, well, the Buddho meditation is it's not actually taught within the Reiki Jin Kei Do Reiki system. It is a meditation. It's the meditation that Mikao Usui practiced in the early days of his formulation of the Reiki system. In all schools of Reiki, when the history of Reiki is taught, it is taught that Mikao Usui spent 21 days meditating and fasting on Mount Kurama in Japan, and he had a moment where he had a flash of enlightenment, a moment of satori during a meditation where nobody's really certain exactly what he saw, but the story is that he saw millions of little bubbles revealing Sanskrit symbols to him that enabled him to access this universal energy. The Buddho meditation is the meditation that Mikao Usui practiced on the mountain. Now, the Buddho is the central meditation practice within a larger Buddhist, essentially Buddhist healing system. It is available to non-Buddhists, but it comes from the Buddhist canon. Now, around this Buddho meditation are many other practices. There are physical exercises called chinadi, which have commonalities with yogic practice and also with Chinese Tai Chi and Qigong type practices. And it's a sort of standalone sort of practice. It doesn't really relate closely to anything else that I know of. But there are many practices within this larger Buddho healing system and the Buddho being the central component of that. And the Buddho healing system is actually taught as a separate path within the Reiki Jin Kei Do canon. It feeds into and integrates with the Reiki system, and informs the Jin Kei Do practice of Reiki very closely. But it is taught as a separate system. It's a twin path, and you can either choose to study that system or ignore it and just focus on the traditional, secular Reiki system.
Okay. So does meditation play an important role in this process for practitioners?
Yeah, I mean, meditation for me is a really critical component within the Jin Kei Do canon. Some people come to Jin Kei Do, as they do with other schools of Reiki, and they want to learn Reiki because they want to go and work on themselves using Reiki in a healing context, or they want to go out and set up a professional Reiki practice so they can work on other people in that way. And that's fine. But for me, the core of the Jin Kei Do system is really the meditation focus of the system. And we've got a number of meditations within the Jin Kei Do canon. But all of these meditations come out of, to a degree, the larger Buddho healing system. So, for instance, at the first level, the first stage of Reiki training, we teach a meditation called the 6-point meditation. Now, the 6-point meditation at the first level is a very simple meditation designed to increase a student's awareness of energy flow and start to understand how that energy works within the body. That meditation is actually a very simplified form of the Buddho meditation that Mikao Usui originally practiced. And it becomes slightly more complex at second degree, and then more complex again at the third level. And there are other meditations that we use within the Reiki system. Again, some of them influenced by the larger Buddho system that we also teach. But I think really when we look at the Jin Kei Do system, we don't really want to see it as two separate practices, a hands-on healing therapy and a meditation practice. The two are very much integrated. We don't do hands-on healing with Reiki without incorporating meditation work. It just doesn't happen. We work with meditation when we're working as a healing therapist as well. And in the same way, when we practice our meditation, we're actually bringing in healing energy, because Reiki is an energy system. What we're actually doing is working on healing the body at the same time that we're actually doing the meditation practice. So, yeah, it is a sort of twin track, but the two are very closely integrated. It's very difficult to take apart the strands of that sort of rope, really.
Right. How so the meditation and the system itself is one tradition as far as the Reiki Jin Kei Do tradition, right?
Yeah.
And then how much does that differ from other styles? I mean, I know that other styles don't necessarily look at oneself first in healing and then others, but is there other differences? Or
I think really the essential difference, as you said, is really to do with looking at the self, but in terms of practicing the meditation. But I think really it just comes down to the depth of understanding of the larger Reiki system, really, that separates Jin Kei Do from not all of the systems. I mean, I wouldn't want to say that all of the systems of Reiki are shallow in comparison, because that's not true. But within Jin Kei Do, there is a depth of understanding of the Reiki system that is perhaps not present in many other traditions. And this is partly because the lineage that Jin Kei Do followed from Mikao, Usui down to the present day has in part, well, it has passed through a continuous line of Buddhist practitioners, all of whom speak Japanese. So given that Reiki originated in Japan, and it originally developed from Buddhist practices, the fact that this lineage has been transmitted by Japanese-speaking Buddhists does mean there is a substantial understanding and a deep understanding of what Reiki is really about and where it comes from. And the larger Buddho system, of course, helps that process as well. So I guess there is a depth to Jin Kei Do that may not be necessarily present in other traditions. And of course, within many Western traditions of Reiki, which come from a lady called Mrs. Takata, who also passed on a traditional form of Reiki that dated back to Mikao Usui, she was not taught, for instance, the Buddho meditation. So the schools of Reiki that spring from Mrs. Takata never had that material to inform their practice of Reiki, whereas it is present in Jin Kei Do. And that's not, again, as I said, it's not to diminish the other schools of Reiki, because what they have is what they have, and frankly, it's changing the world. Reiki is a phenomenal success, and that is pretty much down to the work that Mrs. Takata and her students did. In raising the profile of Reiki all across the world, but there is just a different flavour to the Jin Kei Do process, I think.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you: do you think that a healing practitioner of any practice can heal someone of something if that practitioner is suffering from the same thing? You know what I mean?
How do you mean? If the practitioner has a problem?
Like, let's say a practitioner has a problem with honesty. Let's just make it real easy. Do you think that in them working on a client who has the same issue, and that issue is what is blocking them from moving forward, do you think that the practitioner can help them move that block or heal that?
Absolutely. I don't think. I mean, this is an issue that has come up for me a number of times with my own students, with various problems, and I don't think that it makes the slightest bit of difference at all. Mm-hmm. Reiki is separate from that individual. When we work with Reiki as a healing therapist, we're not using our own energy. Not at all. This is all universal energy. Universal life force energy is the stuff of which everything is created, and we're channeling this energy through us. So if the practitioner, as you say, let's say has a problem with honesty, doesn't matter. This universal energy is going to come through that person in any case. I mean, students of mine have said to me, look, I'm still working on myself. I've got problems that I know that I need to fix. Is it okay for me to go out and work on other people as a therapist? And my answer is, yeah, absolutely. Of course it is. There's nobody that is perfect out there. And if we wait for the point where we are a perfect human being before we start working with Reiki in a therapeutic context, well, we're going to be waiting our whole lives. We're never going to get there, frankly. And, Reiki as a therapy will have died out by that stage because no one will be practicing it. Reiki is separate from us. It is us. We are made of this stuff, but in terms of using Reiki as a therapeutic process, we're channeling this pure universal life force energy through us, through our energy body, through our energy system, out of our hands to the healing of another person. In fact, the other person is drawing it through us. I don't want to give the impression that we're giving somebody Reiki when we put our hands on. We're not. That person that we're working on is actually drawing it through us. It's a bit like, this is the way I describe it to my students. Imagine Imagine this immense, endless reservoir that's connected to a tap by a pipe. Now, as a person who practices Reiki, we're just the pipe. We're not the person turning on the tap. The person who's turning on the tap is the person who's getting the energy, and they decide how much of that energy they want. So they turn on the tap. The energy flows from the reservoir through the pipe out of the tap to the person.
Mm-hmm.
So, we don't have any control in it, and the nature of the pipe is irrelevant. As long as there's a gap there for the energy to go through, or the water from the reservoir, then that's the only significant factor.
Okay. Well, it's time for our mid-show break. I want to remind our listeners that we are talking with Steve Gooch, author of Reiki Jin Kei Do, The Way of Compassion and Wisdom. And we are taking questions regarding Reiki Jin Kei Do. And you could call toll-free 1-888-235-7374 in the U.S., 800-920-3717 in Canada, worldwide 623-772-9379. And we will be right back. And tonight's guest is Steve Gooch, all the way from England, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep. And he is the author of Reiki Jin Kei Do, The Way of Compassion and Wisdom. And before we get into any further questions, Steve, can you give our listeners some contact information and if you have a website where they can check that out and where they can find your book?
Sure. You can actually find my book on in all major bookshops and on all book internet sites. You can find my own website at www.omahum.org. That's omahum.org. And you can find me on MySpace, and I have a blog as well. If you find my website, you will be directed to all of those.
So it's just so I can clarify, is the book in U.S. bookstores also or worldwide? Or,
it's available in bookstores all around the world.
Okay. I just want to make sure that our listeners know that they have an opportunity there. So when we were just finishing, we were discussing how I had asked Steve about when a healing practitioner has a specific block or suffrage or whatever term you would use, does that prevent them from healing another? And he had explained his answer with it being universal energy. And what different things can a client go to a Reiki practitioner for? Because there's attunement. Is that the same as healing? What different things can Reiki help someone with?
The attunement is a part of the teaching process. So
okay.
That's a separate thing, really. In terms of going to somebody for a healing session, there is no condition that you can't have treated with Reiki. Now, that's not to say that any practitioner of Reiki with integrity would ever claim that they could heal for definite any particular condition. Many people have had miracles happen with Reiki. This is true of many different healing systems, not just Reiki. And spontaneous, instantaneous cures do happen, and they're very well documented. But this is not an indication that you could say that Reiki can definitely cure a particular condition. That whether somebody is cured or healed of a condition is down to many factors, and I guess the most important of those is whether that person is actually ready to release that condition or not, whether their life journey has reached a point where they don't need that condition anymore. And then, maybe Reiki is going to help them release that condition for good. But certainly there is nothing that you can't treat with Reiki. And Reiki works well in conjunction with all of the therapies. There are no therapies, whether complementary, alternative, or what we peculiarly called traditional Western medicine, because it's not traditional at all, actually. It's not been around for very long. But traditional Western medicine, all of these things can be used in conjunction with Reiki. So don't ever worry that you're going through some other form of therapy and you have this fear that maybe Reiki is going to inhibit it or change the process in some way. It isn't. It is always going to enhance every other therapy that you may be having.
That's good to know, because I know, my son was very ill when he was young, and I was afraid of integrating holistic or metaphysical practices with his modern medicine. Because it was like, oh, his body was very volatile. So it's good to get that out there, that it does enhance. What then is a Reiki attunement? Because I always thought that was where you just kind of get fluffed up, as I call it, where there's no major issue going on and you just want to do some self-care. But you're saying that's more of a teaching process?
Yeah, it's part of the teaching process. When a student attends a Reiki class, for them to be able to practice Reiki, they need to go through what we call an attunement process. The attunement is a very sacred ritual or ceremony that the Reiki teacher performs with the student that opens up the energy channel. Essentially, what's happening in a Reiki attunement is that the teacher is increasing the spin of the chakras. Now, if you don't know what chakras are, they come out of originally Hindu yogic teaching. The chakras are energy centers within the body, major conjunctions of energy pathways. So if we think in terms of the Chinese system, where we have meridians, or the Indian Ayurvedic system, where we call them nadis, these are streams of energy, and they meet at points which we call chakras. And in the human body, there are 7 major chakras strung in a line down the center of the body. In the attunement process, what we're doing is increasing the spin of these chakras, which they spin all the time in any case. The chakra means wheel. So obviously we're thinking of something that is spinning, turning around. The attunement increases that spin, and increasing the spin of the chakra, what we're actually doing is opening up something that's already naturally there. In fact, we're not giving the students anything new. It's they already have this natural predisposition for universal energy to pass through the system. In any case, in abundance, we tend to lose that ability as we go through life. So the attunement is increasing the spin and opening up this channel for the energy to flow through. Once the attunement is complete, then Reiki flows through the body, through the top of the head where the crown chakra is, down to the heart center. And this is quite significant that it stops there at the heart center momentarily, because Reiki is about transmission of love and compassion. So, and the heart center is the chakra that governs those attributes. So it comes down to the heart center and then follows 2 of these streams, these nadis or meridians, from the heart center down the arms to the palms. And this is why we use Reiki as a healing therapy, because the energy is actually transmitted from the palms.
I'm speechless. I'm envisioning this. I was so caught up in how you were describing it. So it goes through the crown chakra to the heart chakra and then down the arms.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking of a healing class that I take, and that's one of the practices we use when we do energy healing work. So I'm just like, oh, it's the same, same system, not process. I'm sure it's completely different than Reiki. Yeah. What prompted you to write this book?
A number of factors, I guess. I mean, I've always wanted to be a writer. I just got this, I don't know, this sort of romantic thing going on about, I want to be a writer, So this was my first book, and And Reiki has always been a real big passion of mine. And I thought, well, my first book is going to have to be about Reiki. So, I mean, that was one factor. Another factor, and I guess more important, actually, really, was the fact that nobody had written a book on this particular tradition.
Mm-hmm.
There are dozens and dozens of books on Reiki. The last time I counted, I found something like 200, and there must be a dozen or so books come out every year. But nobody had written a book on this particular tradition. And I thought that it was important that there was a book out on Reiki Jin Kei Do. It's quite a small tradition in Reiki. It's in comparison to the other traditions of Reiki, it's not well known. Not many people are aware of this particular school of Reiki, and it was about time there was a book out there. And also, and I guess this is where I need to work on myself a little bit more too. I was just starting to get really irritated by the amount of really bad research and just plain wrong-headedness there was in terms of the small amount of reporting there had been on this particular tradition on some websites and in other books. I mean, it was just, a lot of nonsense was being talked. So I thought it was about time to just, put the record straight, really.
It was your motivational factor kicking in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to say, it is filled with information. I mean, each page is just full of information. It covers a lot of the different history and some practices. And I don't think I've seen a book on a practice that has such a birth of information on the practice, so that someone who's interested in finding out if it's for them can get a good grasp on if it's for them. And then, of course, you've included some teachers so that people from all over the world can find someone in their area, which I thought was genius.
Yeah, well, that was actually one of the first things I decided to put together in the book was the directory at the back, so that people anywhere in the world can pick up the book if they're interested in this tradition. There is a directory at the back, so they can track down somebody that hopefully is reasonably close to them and learn it for themselves. And there's a lot of fantastic Reiki teachers in this tradition all over the world, all working to the same agenda, trying to push out the message of developing love and compassion and wisdom to enable healing around the world. And they're doing such amazing work, and so few people are even aware of the tradition and that these teachers are out there. And I thought, it was really important for me to get that directory in the book. And it's not complete, sadly. I mean, I've now got other people to add to that list, and there are people that I know are out there that I wasn't able to contact. So it's as complete as I could get it. And there's quite a lot of people in there. Certainly in the States, there's quite a number of people teaching in the States. So that was quite important. And yeah, it is crammed with information. I was in two minds about this because there are a lot of, as I said, there are a lot of Reiki books out there, and there are a number that are really quite shallow in their coverage of the subject and don't really tell you an awful lot that's of any use. But when I came to write this, my dilemma was, well, do I write this for somebody who's a beginner and just make it a really sort of basic guide, or do I give something a bit more meaty? Do I present something that maybe second degree and masters or teachers can use also? So it was a bit of a problem for me. But I think, the feedback that I've had from people who've read the book is that it is being used by first degree students, by beginners in Reiki, as well as Reiki teachers. I've had a number of Reiki teachers within this tradition and elsewhere contact me and tell me that this book has actually made them refocus and reconsider the way they teach teach their Reiki practice to their own students. And that's great. I mean, it's great that, complete beginners have found it of use, and also seasoned Reiki teachers are also finding something of value in it.
So would you say then, being a practitioner of Reiki Jin Kei Do, that it's a way of life? It's not just a healing form. It's not just not a spiritual belief, but is it a way of life for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and many people within this tradition would say that also. I mean, it is a method that once you take it on board, it becomes a part of of the way you express yourself in the world. It's an expression of you. It is a way of life. It's not something that you pick up, work with on another person, and then put down and just go back to just being whoever you are without Reiki. It becomes something that changes you. It changes you on a daily, moment to moment basis as you take on board the various practices. And certainly one of the practices within the system is a meditation practice where and this comes from the Buddhist canon originally, where every moment is a meditation. Every moment in every day is a meditation. Now that takes some doing, for sure, to have a level of awareness where you are engaged with a meditation practice second by second each day. But as you progress through the system, you find that it becomes easier, and it becomes the theme tune to your life, really.
So do you find that your level of inner peace, has gone up?
Yes, yeah, for sure. When I look back at the time prior to my involvement with Reiki, I mean, I was involved with meditation practices and other things for a number of years prior to Reiki, but it was Reiki that really grabbed me, and it was the thing that resonated with me, and it's had a profound impact on my life. I mean, I wouldn't say that my life doesn't have its ups and downs. It does have its problems, and I suffer as much as any other human being does. But I have tools to work with when things go wrong. I know that I've got something in this Jin Kei Do tool bag that I can apply to that particular problem. And, I still have to go the journey through that suffering and come out the other end. But the journey is easier knowing that I've got these things to help me.
Did it also motivate you in a certain direction, the practice, or like in your daily life? Did it motivate you to start doing different things with your life, or to
That's yes. Well, that's not an easy one to answer, I guess. I mean, yeah, it has pushed me in certain directions. I mean, I used to be a school teacher in any case, so teaching is something that I've known for a very long time. And having got out of school teaching, and then decided that I was going to be a Reiki therapist instead, I found that Reiki has actually pushed me straight back into teaching. So, I mean, I guess this is something that I'm never going to put down. I'm just going to end up being a teacher of something all of my life, and I'm happy with that. I mean, I'm happier teaching Reiki than I was as a school teacher, but I'm still teaching, and it's also pushed me. Well, it's pushed me into writing the book. I mean, had I not got involved in Reiki, then maybe I wouldn't have written a book. And I mean, writing has been my passion since I was at school. I mean, I decided when I was 14 years old that I wanted to be a writer. It's taken me a long time to get there, but Reiki was the thing that pushed me finally to realize my childhood dream. So yeah, it has pushed me in lots of different directions, and and I can think of particular personal problems that I've had over recent months that Reiki has helped me with. As I said, the journey hasn't been easy at times, but I've had Reiki to help me. It's and somebody said to me, this was actually on a forum, on a forum on the internet. Somebody asked, what is Reiki to you? And I said, Reiki to me is like my best friend. It's like, when you're on your own and the whole world is black and nothing is going right and there is nobody to fall back on. Reiki is your best friend, and you can wrap yourself in it like a blanket and feel protected and enclosed in this sheath of love. And that's how I see Reiki. It's just this amazing thing that you can surround yourself with. It's just pure love.
What's the future path of Reiki, the Jin Kei Do version, do you think?
I think Reiki Jin Kei Do is always, to a degree, going to be a minority practice. It is becoming more popular. It is starting to become known a little more widely around the world now. But it's going to stay as a minority practice, I think, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It will draw the people to it that will benefit from it, that are looking for this type of practice. It will draw the people to it that are interested in personal spiritual development rather than just picking up another therapeutic process to add to their toolkit, if you like. Mm-hmm. But it's developing. Nothing stays still. Everything changes, and Jin Kei Do is developing as time goes by, and it's becoming a much more profound system in many ways, I think, as it is informed by the practice of individual teachers.
Well, let's see. We've got about 30 seconds left, so I just wanted to give you another opportunity to give out your website contact information. Let's see, we're speaking with Steve Gooch, author of Reiki Jin Kei Do, and he has a website you can visit, www.omahhum.org. And his book is available worldwide in the major bookstores. Is that right, Steve?
All bookstores can get a copy.
Woo-hoo. And then next week, we will be having Dr. Eric Pearl with the Reconnection, Heal Others and Heal Yourself. And I wanted to just take a quick second and thank you, Steve, for either waking up early or staying up late.
It was nice to be here, Kris, and I'm looking forward to going back to bed soon.
And until next week, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time. Thank you. Bye-bye.